The dust tasted like regret. Silas Bell knew that taste well. He spat, the brown fleck landing on the parched earth of Copper Canyon's outskirts. He's been tasting it for nearly a year, ever since he's left Galveston and the life he knew. A lawyer then, a shadow of a man now. The sign read, "The Golden Spur, finest horses and fair prices." Silas needed a horse, a good one, something that could outrun a preacher's guild and a bounty hunter's aim. He found the stable surprisingly clean, the smell of hay and leather a stark contrast to the grit that clung to everything else in the territory. A wiry man with eyes the color of flint introduced himself as Caleb. "Looking for something specific, mister?" Caleb asked, wiping his hands on a stained apron. "Something reliable, can handle rough terrain, and needs to be fast." Caleb chuckled with dry rasp. "Most folks around here want the same thing." He led Silas to a storehouse in a chestnut mare, a coat gleaming under the afternoon sun. "This here's Belle, 3 years old, strong as a rock, and faster than a prairie wind." Belle regarded Silas with an unsettling intelligence. He reached out, scratching her behind the ears. She leaned into his touch, a low rumble vibrating in her chest. "She's agreeable," he murmured. "She picks her riders," Caleb said, his eyes narrowed. "Doesn't take to just anyone." Silas didn't haggle. He paid Caleb's asking price, a sum he could scarcely afford, but a price that felt necessary. Mounting Belle, he felt a connection, a strange resonance with the animal. It was as if she understood his unspoken burdens. He rode toward the town, the setting sun painting the mesas in hues orange and purple. Copper Canyon was a collection of ramshackle buildings clustered around a dry creek bed. The saloon, the rattlesnake's kiss, was the heart of the place, a place where fortunes were won and lost, and secrets were traded like currency. Silas's reason for being in Copper Canyon wasn't about horses or fortunes. It was about a debt, a past he could not run. A man named Jedediah Crane, a man he's failed. He checked into the town's only boarding house, a dilapidated structure run by a woman named Martha, whose face was a roadmap of hard living. "Room for one night," she's told him, her voice as rough as sandpaper. "Don't cause no trouble." He didn't plan to. He just needed a place to watch, to wait, to observe the movements of Jedediah Crane and his man. Crane was a ruthless cattle baron who ruled Copper Canyon with an iron fist, extorting the small ranchers and terrorizing anyone who crossed him. And somewhere among those ranchers was the family he's failed to protect. He spent the evening at the Rattlesnake's Kiss, nursing her whiskey and keeping a low profile. The saloon was teeming with the usual suspects: grizzled miners, weary cowboys, and the occasional gambler looking for a quick score. He saw Crane at a table in the corner, surrounded by his hulking lieutenants. Crane was a large man, with a thick, black mustache and cold, calculating eyes. He exuded an aura of menace that made the room tense. Silas overheard snippets of conversation. Crane was planning a raid on a small ranch owned by a man named Thomas Harding. Harding was a stubborn, independent rancher who refused to bow down to Crane's demands. Crane wanted Harding's land, his cattle, everything. Silas knew he had to do something. He couldn't stand by and watch another innocent family suffer. But intervening would mean exposing himself, risking everything. He was a man haunted by his past, a man who sworn off violence. As the night deepened, a woman entered the saloon. She was slender, with long dark hair and eyes that sparkled with defiance. Her name was Eliza Harding, Thomas's daughter. She walked straight up to Crane's table and confronted him, her voice ringing with anger. "You leave my father alone, Crane," she said, her hands clenched into fists. Crane laughed, a cruel, dismissive sound. "And what are you going to do, little girl?" Eliza didn't back down. "You're a bully, Crane, and bullies always get their comeuppance." Crane signaled his men and they moved to intimidate Eliza. Silas felt a surge of anger, a righteous fury that he hadn't felt in years. He couldn't let Crane hurt her. He rose to his feet, his hand instinctively reaching for the cold peacemaker he's purchased from Caleb. "Leave her alone, Crane," Silas said, his voice slow but firm. Crane turned his gaze on Silas, his eyes narrowed. "Who's this?" he asked, his voice dripping with disdain. "Just a traveler passing through," Silas replied, his hand hovering near his gun. "A lawyer, if I'm not mistaken," Crane sneered. "I recognize the look in your eyes. The kind that thinks they're better than everyone else." Silas didn't respond. He knew Crane was trying to provoke him, to draw him into a confrontation. "I suggest you leave, traveler," Crane said, his hand resting on his own gun. "Before you get hurt." Silas ignored him and walked towards Eliza, shielding her from Crane's menacing presence. "You should go, miss," he murmured. "This isn't safe." Suddenly, a shot rang out. The saloon erupted in chaos. People screamed and dove for cover. Silas saw Crane's lieutenant, a burly man named Boris, leveling his gun at Eliza. Silas reacted instinctively. He drew his own gun and fired. Boris staggered back, clutching his arm, and fell to the floor. Crane's eyes blazed with fury. "You just made a big mistake, lawyer," he snarled. He signaled his men, and they charged towards Silas. The saloon transformed into a maelstrom of gunsmoke and flying bodies. Silas fought with a desperate ferocity, years of regret fueling his every move. He parried blows, dodged bullets, and returned fire with deadly accuracy. He wasn't a gunslinger, but he was resourceful. He used the tables and chairs as cover, outmaneuvering Crane's men with a combination of skill and desperation. Eliza Harding watched the fight, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and admiration. She saw a man fighting for what was right, a man willing to risk his own life to protect others. The fight seemed to last an eternity. Finally, Silas managed to disarm Crane, sending his gun clattering across the floor. Crane lay sprawled on the ground, his face bruised and bloody. Silas stood over him, his gun trained on his chest, but he couldn't bring himself to pull the trigger. He wasn't a killer. "You're finished, Crane," Silas said, his voice trembling with exhaustion. "The law will take care of you now." The sheriff and his deputies arrived, arresting Crane and his remaining men. The saloon slowly emptied, the tension gradually dissipating. Silas turned to Eliza, who was staring at him with gratitude in her eyes. "You were very brave," he said. "So were you," she replied. "Thank you." Silas nodded, then turned and walked out of the saloon, back into the fading sunlight. He mounted Belle and rode out of Copper Canyon, leaving the chaos behind him. He's done what he had to do, for now. He glanced back at the town, a cluster of lights twinkling in the darkness. He felt a sense of peace he hadn't felt in a long time. He might be a lawyer turned shadow, but he's also found a flicker of redemption. He knew Crane wouldn't stay behind bars forever. He would be back. But for now, Silas had bought Eliza and her family some time. He didn't expect gratitude, only the quiet satisfaction of knowing he had made a difference. As he rode off into the vastness of the Arizona Territory, he knew his journey wasn't over. There were other families to protect, other injustices to right. He didn't know what the future held, but he was ready to face it, riding alongside a loyal mare and carrying a renewed sense of purpose. He knew one thing: the taste of regret was still there, but it was now mingled with a new flavor, the faint but unmistakable taste of hope. And somewhere, in the distance, he could hear the echoes of a young woman's voice whispering, "Thank you."